So coming to the second session, this is especially designed for all you postgraduate students. So I recommend that you don't run away and stay online. So, I have an analogy which says that, the best diamonds are formed in the deep crust of the earth under immense pressure and temperature. So your PG course is actually immense pressure and temperature so that you come out as well cooked diamonds. But because of the pandemic, and your course has been greatly hampered, I must say that. And most of you, without no offense meant, are quarter baked and not fully baked. Now, the idea of this colloquium is to give you a sense of direction, what you need to do next and what you need to pursue. In fact, that was the very essence of this entire masterclass program, and how to go ahead in the big bad world, which you're going to face tomorrow, and shine on like a diamond. So I would like to call upon my dearest HOD, Dr. Ramya Raghu, to do the deliberations. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Ashish. I want you also to come on screen, Ashish.
Okay.
Fine. Now, the next slot in our program is the colloquium. Now, here we are actually going to address the pressing needs of today's passing out postgraduates. Now, as fresh postgraduates, you are now on the threshold of your career, and this has been aggravated to a major extent by the ongoing pandemic. So, the question that is looming large in all your minds is, what do we do now, and where do we go from here? Or this is something that you're all really wondering day and night what to do. So it is to answer this burning question and to give you a sense of direction and perspective that we have put together this last session of our program. Now, in one context, the word colloquium actually means an informal conversation. It is just a casual conversation between professionals. And for this, we have several eminent clinicians as well as academicians on this platform to address all your queries and to clarify all your doubts. Dr. Ashish and I will be taking you through this session. Now, the first thing post MDS that is on all your minds is how to start earning your living. You all want to become independent and you want to stand on your own feet, as we say. So there are two pathways that a fresh postgraduate can definitely choose. One is obviously academics and the other is clinical practice. Now, a career in teaching is something that appeals to most freshers. So, what are the prospects in this regard? How lucrative is it? How does it actually benefit you if you get into academics? And this is something that I would like to ask Dr. Srireka. Dr. Srireka is the professor and HOD at Oxford Dental College. She's a dedicated academician for over 2 decades and has trained a number of undergraduates and postgraduates. So over to you, Dr. Srireka. I would like you to take on this question, which is often in our postgraduates' minds. I want you to throw some light on your views on this topic. You can unmute yourself here. Welcome, Dr. Srireka.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everyone, ma'am. It's so beautiful to see everyone. Okay, going to the question that you asked, ma'am. There are issues in it, so I'm not going to go into the issues with academics. I'll directly go to the positive points about academics. One of the best thing is if you're passionate about teaching, this is the place that you have to be. Why? Because academics is the area which trains the next generation of dentists, isn't it, ma'am? So what happens is, if we have issues with dentists, when we say, there's a poor diagnosis or a poor management of case, that means we haven't done a good job. So, if you're keen on academics, you're keen on training postgraduates, you're keen on sharing your knowledge, mentoring, or even being a facilitator, this is the best job to do because it's one of the most satisfying as well as a fulfilling job. When you do your job, or a well done job, obviously, you have many dentists who are there. And, if, I have a scenario, I obviously can't do a root canal to myself. I need a well-trained student there, right? Isn't it? So that's only possible when we do our job very well. And as I said, it's a very fulfilling job. We have another portfolio that has come up in the recent years, that being research towards the Indian subcontinent. We've really not addressed this much. If you're keen in research, academics is another field that we can all enter into. We have enough areas where grants are possible. Your original research done well, published in a reputed journal. I think one of the it's like a topping on the cake. You get recognized not just in our national front, even in the international front. You're invited into the editorial boards of reputed journals, and the view or the visibility that you get internationally is one of the best. So this you can bank on. So academics, I personally feel these are the two stand-up points. One is the teaching, which is highly fulfilling. Second being the research, which we need to, I think, work on. And we have many young dentists who've been recognized on this aspect. So I think these are the two major good things, ma'am, about academic. Issues are there, but that can be solved, whether it's the promotion aspect or the remuneration aspect. That could be addressed by various issues, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right,
Rightly put, Srirekha. Very nice. I really appreciate you sharing your views here. I would also like to ask Dr. Sylvia, who's also been a very dedicated and sincere academician, same number of years, over 2 decades or so. I want her to share her views on this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Sylvia. Yeah, good morning, Dr. Ramya. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, academics has been very fulfilling for me. More so in the, I would say more so in the earlier aspects of my teaching. But I think Srirekha said, it has its positives. I enjoyed, and you need to be really passionate about it and work hard and keep updating yourself. Without updating yourself, so you have to be prepared for a lifelong learning. And it has its positives. You yourself have to set up a good standard for your students, because they look up to you and they look the way you teach, the way you behave to your colleagues, the way you treat your patients, because all that, and then they get inspired, your students. That is one aspect. So if you have that inspiration in you, please go ahead and go, but you need to sustain, because there is a change of environment from what I was started with, because the type of students are different. You have more Google-based students. So, the academic is a lot of challenge these days. I feel there's the challenges more because you need to update, and these students get the information at the tip of their fingers. So you have to be able to give them more than what they can get from Google and from the internet searches.
Yes.
So you need to update yourself. So, but it has its other side. The type of students you get now is not as much, the dedication is not there. So it is a challenge. Like I feel these days, the recent times, teaching students the interest, keeping up the interest, and also you need to update yourself and you need to move. You have to, upskill yourself to make sure that they have your interest. So you really, if you feel that it should be a balance, if not academics, your clinical practice also, you should balance and not neglect that. Okay. So I feel.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia. Like you put that, we have to now have a change of attitude, and our approach should also be different when it comes to training students today, because they are all IT enabled, and they are all much more proficient with technology than us. Plus, also put in that point that we have to be always updating our knowledge. Yes, that is another benefit of being in academics. Now, another aspect of academics, which Dr. Srirekha has mentioned, is about research. This is another means by which we can further your growth in academics. And one way of furthering our growth in academics and reaching greater heights is by what is now being very much touted as a PhD degree. So for this aspect, I would like to invite Dr. Mitra, HOD and Senior Professor at A.B. Shetty Memorial Dental College, who's been an avid researcher and has guided many, many PhD scholars over the years. So this is for you, Dr. Mitra. Welcome to our program, and thank you for consenting to be a part of it today, despite your very busy schedule. Thank you, Dr. Mitra.
Thank you, Ramya.
Yeah. What is the scope
Thank-
of research and PhD according to you? What is the scope for research and PhD, and how does one go about it? And what are the additional benefits one can acquire by adding on a PhD degree to their credentials?
Yes, a very good question. Thank you, Ramya, for the opportunity to answer such a question, which is most relevant at this time, what to do after MDS. PhD, it is more than a degree. It is regarded as the highest degree in varied academic disciplines. Doctor of Philosophy aims to provide students with a chance to develop deeper into specific area of study, and the PhD ecosystem has evolved over time. Initially, the common thinking was the scope of PhD is limited to academics. However, today, amalgamation of academics, clinical practice, and industry has left many options for PhD graduates to explore. They are able to use their knowledge-based skills in development and innovation. PhD is more than a degree, where training and knowledge-based research activities are more important. It is about engaging in-depth research along with a thorough understanding of research issues and ability to solve key problems with exceptional analytical and observational skills. There are various countries and universities that follow different formats and guidelines, maybe part-time or full-time, which is minimum period of 3 years to 4 years respectively. In certain instances, they are based individual research projects. Many universities in India offer excellent PhD programs. Those programs provide a key transferable skill to various aspects with emphasis on enhancing skills, critical development of early stage researcher. The most important thing for any postgraduate student before they start to do a PhD is, remember, PhD is recognized worldwide. That degree is recognized worldwide. Before you start selecting a university, most important is select a university based on the key area of research interest. You need to know what is your area of research interest and then get into the university where there are facilities for you to continue that area of interest. Identification of the guide and their credibility makes a lot of difference to your PhD program. Accessibility to research and learning facilities in the university is most important. Research work funding, internal and external grants from charities, research council or bodies which may be private or government, industry funded or scholarships. These are all the homework which you need to do before you start or join the PhD program. And once you start with the PhD program, there is a lot of options. Yeah, now, in fact, the industry is looking for PhDs to join. Even in academics, if you are a PhD, you are directly taken as a reader as per DCI. So there is a lot of, the present generation has got a lot of scope for PhD. So I think there is a lot of scope for the present generation who have just finished to continue the learning skills into a smaller area and master themselves in that. So wishing all of the postgraduates, fresh postgraduates, all the best, and thanking Ramya for this opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you, Ramya.
Thank you, Dr. Mitra, for that in-depth analysis and all the benefits that one can achieve by doing a PhD and furthering one's career, both academically as well as in, either in India as well or abroad. So in both respects, it is going to be really beneficial. Thank you so much for taking time off and being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, moving on to the next aspect, which is a dilemma that is faced by most of the lady endodontists. And remember, there are an appreciable number of lady endodontists passing out nowadays. So the dilemma that they face constantly is how best to manage career alongside family. Now, this is really a tightrope walk for most of them. So how do they balance both? For this, I have the right person to address this question. That is none other than Dr. Rupa Nadig, HOD at Dayanand Sagar Dental College. She has donned several hats. She is an able academician, an administrator, an office bearer as president of IACD, president of ACE. She has held many university positions. She has in fact broken the glass ceiling and been a pioneer and role model of sorts to many of us. Over to you, Dr. Rupa. Are you there? So the question for you is, how do you, in your opinion, how do you think one can truly straddle this two worlds today? How they can, balance both family and career today?
Thank you, Ramya.
Ma'am, sorry, ma'am, just to interfere, sorry to interfere, ma'am, we are not seeing your face, only your head is seen.
Yeah. I'm okay now?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. You've been too generous, Ramya. So don't believe her fully, because she's a very good friend of mine. So she had a lot of kind words for me. Anyway, thanks for that. Talking of my own journey, like she said, I have tried to wear several hats, being an academician and clinical practice, administration, culminating as dean, principal, and other leadership positions in the various organizations, university, and whatnot. While it was an enriching experience, both contentful as well as satisfying, of these hats that I have worn, being an academician was the most gratifying and the satisfying period, or the hat which I have worn. I should submit that. And what is, like you were talking about the challenges in academics, right? So being an academician is not very easy. Perhaps that challenge has driven me to grow in my profession, because what is more important being an academician is the students look up to you as their role models. So the challenge is to walk the talk. So walking the talk is something which is extremely difficult. You can probably advise people and whatnot, but walking the talk is perhaps the challenging aspect. And that challenge has probably made me work harder, more passionately, triggering a chain reaction, automatically resulting in the progression of steps leading to success. So she was talking about the work-life balance, right? So that's what you wanted me to say. So work-life balance is not only for a woman, if you ask me. It applies to probably every individual, whether it's a male or a female. But certainly women are much more likely than men to experience a variety of family-related career interruptions. All women at some stage of their life get stuck and are at crossroads. So should I pursue my career, or should I give up and take care of my family? So it's a dilemma that every woman faces after giving birth to a child, especially. No doubt both these roles are extremely demanding, and to do justice to each one of them without neglecting the other is indeed a daunting task. But having gone through this experience, I strongly believe that it is possible to be a dutiful wife, a doting mother, and an achiever. Because a successful career gives a woman a sense of identity, financial independence, a broader outlook, a better problem-solving ability more than anything. And women, especially women in India, I should say, have tremendous ability to do multitasking. And they can successfully manage time more efficiently and effectively. So these positive qualities of a woman will certainly help not only her growth and satisfaction, but this will, more importantly, this will percolate to her children also. So the children become more responsible, like you, or even more, having seen and you acting as a role model. So what exactly is this work-life balance? Is it equally dividing your time at home and work like a seesaw? So initially, I also imagined having an extremely productive day at work and leaving early to spend the other half of the day with friends and family. While this seemed ideal in the initial periods of my career, but as I grew in my profession, it was not always possible. So after a while, I stopped striving for the perfect schedule and compromised for a realistic and a practical one. Some days, probably I needed more focus on work, while other days I had more time to spend with my loved ones or have energy to pursue my hobbies. I realized balance is nothing but making a bigger impact at work without sacrificing your personal health or happiness for it. And this is achieved not in one day, it can be achieved only over a period of time. So the key is not how many grudging hours you spend on each role, but how effectively and productively you can do this. So I would always prioritize what is important to me. Okay. So what is important to you and choosing to do things that are priorities. So I think you need to let go the non-priorities in a very, very practical way. Ignore small imperfections each day. There are bound to be issues and challenges always, somewhere, even at home as well as in the office. So when you're able to let go of these small little stuff, you build up your energy reserves for more important things that you need your time and attention.
Okay.
So also simplifying life by delegating certain tasks which are not very important and utilizing those time with your dear ones, spending quality time with them probably will add more value to your life.
Okay.
So for that, of course, developing a good support system is extremely important for anybody's successful career. Fortunately, I have been endowed with a good support system, and this support and encouragement given to you by those people who matter to you. It could be your parents, spouse, children, in-laws, and even the servants, the helpers who are there all around. They all matter. So they will make a big impact on your career.
Yes.
So behind every person's success, like you said, for behind the success of every man, there is a woman, and behind every woman, there's a man or whatever.
Yes.
So it is not just one person, but for every woman, I think there is an entire set of people who are there for your success.
Thank you, Rupa, for sharing your beautiful thoughts on this
And
issue.
one more thing I would like to tell is one more thing that has helped me enjoy life beyond profession and close family. So even till this day, I find time to pursue my other passions and also have a lot of fun with my school friends. I make it a point to be silly, crack jokes, pull each other's legs because it lifts my spirits and makes me feel young at heart. So I'm very passionate about music. I still make it a point to attend classes, explore different forms of music. So all these make you feel good. So I believe feeling good creates a positive ripple effect into the other areas of your life. There's no point in complaining, I don't have time. If you need, you can make time. So my dear friends, you have to probably do well in your profession, no doubt about it, but don't restrict yourself to your office boundaries. Nurture some hobby, hang out with friends, and live your life to the fullest.
Yes.
Life is not beautiful unless we make it beautiful.
Yes. Thank you, Rupa. Thank you, Rupa, Dr. Rupa, for sharing your lovely thoughts. We now know, all you youngsters now know about the secret of her remaining youthful and beautiful till date.
Let me take out my glasses.
Yeah. And let me tell you, she has been ably supported by her husband, Dr. Ramanand, and she's got two beautiful children who are well settled abroad as doctors in the United States. They are specialist doctors. So take a cue from her life and then learn to balance both your professional life as well as your personal life. Give adequate time for both, quality time for both, and ensure that you don't miss out on any part of your life. Thank you, Dr. Rupa. moving on to the next aspect of academics. Now, there's a lot been said about academics. As we know, as professionals, we have no choice but to keep on learning. Like Dr. G.V. Black has said, a professional has to remain an eternal student. So we have to be learning all the time. So in this regard, I would like to ask Dr. Subhashini, professor at Rajarajeshwari Dental College. She's a young and dynamic lady. I want to ask her, why is it important to constantly update oneself? Dr. Subhashini, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good
Yeah.
afternoon, all of you, all the senior faculties.
Yeah.
And
1 minute, Dr. Subhashini, let me complete. Yeah. Why is it important to constantly update yourself? How do we choose the right course? And why is it important to attend new courses? So you can give your opinion regarding this.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, all of you, all the senior faculty members and my dear colleagues and the dear postgraduate students out there. Learning is a continuous process and never stop thinking and learning. Once you start thinking that you know it all, you stop your own growth and thus reducing your prospects to excel. See, I post-graduated under the guidance of Dr. Meena from VS Dental College. And when I joined my post-graduation, Dr. Ashish Shetty sir was just joined his academics then, and I was a postgraduate then, just stepping into post-graduation. But take it today, all the three of us are still learning, and we're always open to anything that is coming up new, and we're taking it up and learning and inculcating it in our own practices. So getting a master's degree is not akin to achieve the pinnacle of success. It is just actually the first step in the lifelong process of learning. And moreover, we live in a very highly competitive world. Thus, enrolling yourself in the fellowship programs or diploma courses, which will actually benefit you in many ways, and more so because our field is constantly evolving. Newer innovations are happening, and you need to learn them and update them. And there are plethora of courses that are available which can suit your own interests, each one of your interests. And I'm sure the masterclass series especially has given you all the idea where your interest lies and how you can actually further that dream that you all have and pursue it. And you can also explore your passion in the field of lasers, microsurgery, aesthetics. And today we learned a lot about the facial aesthetics or any other of your choosing. The knowledge thus you all have gained through these courses or will gain after you enroll yourself will not only benefit you all, it will benefit your patients and also your practice. But it will basically also make your practice financially sound, which is very important to be successful in your dental practice. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank Ramya ma'am, Ashish sir, and the entire team of BITS for all the efforts that they have put in to bring us this intellectual, stimulating masterclass series of lectures and making us all rich in knowledge. Thank you, ma'am. And I wish all success for all the postgraduates out there and make use of all these opportunities given to you all and go ahead and be successful in your life. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Subhashini. You have rightly put it that we have no choice but to keep updating, and that is what is going to take your practice to the next level. Your MDS is just the springboard for you to start off, but yes, furthering it to greater heights is only by achieving, learning new techniques, new courses, new skills. Something like facial aesthetics, which has been, not really explored in our country. That is something that is upcoming. So all you youngsters have this opportunity as well ahead of you. Now that is about academics as far as India is concerned. Now, for those of you who want to settle abroad, either because of your marriage or because you want to pursue studies abroad, because that is much more inviting. What about the ones who want to set their eyes on foreign shores? I think for this topic, the person who is apt to address this is none other than Dr. Ashish, who is himself a fellow of aesthetic dentistry from New York University under the tutelage of Dr. Stephen Chu and Dr. John Calamia. I think he's the right person to guide you in this regard. Over to you, Ashish. You can throw some light on what are the prospects that they have if they want to come, they want to go abroad to pursue further studies. Is our degree recognized over there? What exactly they have to do to make themselves competent along with the Western professionals? Ashish, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. And Subhashini, that was indeed nice of you to remember that how we as a team used to always learn when we set up the aesthetic department in VS Dental College. We did have a lot of fun. But coming to your question, ma'am, so the first thing all of you need to understand, I'm sure a lot of PG students, is my MDS degree recognized? The answer is a big no. Okay, it's not recognized, but I'll tell you where it counts. Like Dr. Mitra said, PhD and MDS, and also doing a lot of research papers, at least 2. So what happens is when you get to either US, UK or that, and when you give your interview or write your exam, it gives you additional points. And more than that, you're better skilled than all these kids. And you know, when I went at when I was 30 years old, when I was first born, and I thought, you know, what am I going to do in college with kids? But believe me, I had the time of my life. And I was better than them because I had more knowledge and more skill. And one thing about United States per se, because I went there, is they immediately recognize Indian students who are highly skilled, pick them up. And once they recognize you and pick you up, there's no end to it. UK is very challenging. I know that. But Abhishek, you've seen he's flourished. But the advantage of UK is, I think we have a student from VS and my fellow colleague, good friend of mine, Dr. Anjali Kaiwar. And she went, you know, with her kid, and it was just in between her career, and she just cracked the exam in one exam in one sitting, and that was fantastic. And the advantage of UK is they recognize you, but you need to write your bench exam and then get in. Same thing with Australia and other things. What I would recommend for those of you looking at Middle East is that try to get some sort of degree, which I call as a white degree, either in US, UK fellowship. It can be 3 months, can 4 months, or train in implants. You know, I'm a big gungo. I make my PGs, I literally force them to do implants. Of course, this batch has missed it, but the last 2 batches have done implants. They've done certificate courses like Brennemark or AICD, American Academy. And whoever's gone abroad, right from Canada to Gulf, they have got immediate placements because the Middle East, ma'am, and that's all I can say, never stop learning.
Yeah. So now, Ashish, you can continue the next segment. We have covered about academics, what are the prospects in academics. And as an ardent academician who's been like totally involved in teaching for all these years of my life, I can tell you one thing, that is the most fulfilling experience to be in academics, especially when you see your students shine. I think no amount of money can, you know, fulfill the high that you get when you see your students outshining you and doing well in their career. I have so many of them. To name some, like Savita, Farah, all of them have stood out, and you know, they have really excelled, and it makes me feel really proud. So academics is something that you must always keep as the first option, because there is nothing more satisfying than, you know, sharing your knowledge. That is something that, you know, I will always keep telling, that sharing your knowledge is what is the most fulfilling aspect of academics. So don't give up on academics, but you also have, for those of you who are not really keen on academics, there are other options. I think Dr. Ashish will take you over that.
So the one more thing I forgot to add there is the best thing that happened to those guys who want to go abroad is the COVID, because all the universities abroad have become bankrupt and they're dying to have Indian students. And they are rolling out programs in Sweden, in Finland. And this is for masters with just 1 year training with their language. You can go and practice. So I'm sure all of you should explore the avenues. Now, we've heard enough of academics, moving on to the guys and the girls who want to do clinical practice. Now, I've just finished my MD. Thank God for it. I know I took a 6-month break because my dad was a dentist and he was threatening me to come and join him, but I didn't want to. I want to have fun. But I'm sure all of you in that state of mind after that big pressure exam. And but I don't want to set up my practice. because, like I said, practice is having like the second wife or the second spouse. You have to be committed and you're tied down. So my question is, suppose I don't want to set up my practice. Okay, this question is for Dr. Savita from the GDC team. I don't want to set up my practice. What are the options that I have? What can I do? Is there a job in the government setup? Can I have some primary healthcare setup? Or do I just do consultation? What is more lucrative? Can you just give us both the positive and the negatives? You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Ramya ma'am and Ashish sir, for giving this opportunity for me. Since it's been 20 years, I'm in government service. So it's always like we have a belief that like getting into the government job is life is set. It's mainly because of security, and the major aspect, another aspect is pension. But at this COVID scenario, getting a government job is a really big question, because it's always, this goes with a vacancy bound. And as we know, for the dentist, we have a lot of opportunity both in a state and in the central. Central, it could be in the form of ESI. In a state, we have 3 departments. One is medical education, where it is more about academics and research. As Srireka ma'am and Pitra ma'am spoke about how academics and research is fulfilling for us, you can choose to be in academics. Next department is health and family welfare, where you will be working as a general dentist in rural area. It could be in a rural, or it could be in a taluk area, or it could be in a district hospitals. But this is more fulfilling according to me, because you will be interacting with the public and you will be solving the problems. Along with the public, you will be implementing the policies, what the government has implemented. That is like Danta Bhagya Yojana, like that. You will be dealing with both professionally and policy, whatever the government has made. Apart from that, you have a job opportunity even in BBMPs also. So whatever the field you want to choose, whether you want to be in academics or you want to be in a government job, you can opt for it. The government job, how it goes is like it's a vacancy bound, as I said. Whenever the vacancy arises, they put the notification in the paper. So always have an eye on these notifications in any of the leading papers. It could be in the website, both in English and in a regional language paper, they will be putting out the notifications. So keep looking out for it. So you will have a better opportunity to get into these jobs. But right now in this scenario, I would say to the students who pass out and come, you may not directly get into this government job, but you can opt for in BBMP. BBMP, what they have done, they are taking a lot of dentists. They mainly want the medical faculty. If not the medical faculty, next is the dental faculty, who are getting a lot of opportunities as in COVID warriors. You can work as a nodal officer, or you can work in a grievance cells. So this is about the government setup where you have opportunity to work. Okay, and I got in, since it's been 20 years, me being in a government service, I have seen both the sector, be it in a medical education or be it in a health sector. First 10 years, I rendered a service in health sector. Now, after I completed my post-graduation under Ramya ma'am, I really looked upon for the academics. So I moved on from health sector to academics. It's like I am blessed to have an amalgamation of both this sector. Coming to the private practice, in private practice, we have 2 different sectors. One is, we call it as in a corporate world, and one is as in a freelancer. You can opt either one of it. See, as we all know, corporate world is so impressive, and it gives a lot of an opportunity for us. But to get into the corporate world, you need to have a lot of skill. Just like, because it is all technology bound, and they always, they need extra qualification. Like you have to do a certification course. It could be in a micro endodontics, or it could be an aesthetic course, or in a laser. If you have more qualification, you have more prospectus to get into the corporate world. It's just not your subject. Apart from that, you need to have a soft skills like communication skills, and you should be very good with interaction with the patient and with the public, and you need to have a work ethic. If you have all the skills, then you're the right candidate for a corporate world. But this is, again, it is an 9 to 4 job. You are bound to work under some boss. If you don't want all these things, you want to have a freelancing, then you can opt as a consultant for work in all the private clinic. For that, you need to have to make your contacts. You have to work on your contacts. Now that like social media and the network is so good that you get a lot of opportunity. Since our field is evergreen, we are so blessed to be an endodontist. There's no dearth for the patients for our field. So you have a lot of opportunity to work as a freelancer, as a consultant. It's the best option, I feel. And one great advantage is time. You have a lot of time for yourself. You can, balance between profession and with your personal life. So this is my take on being either in government, private, or corporate sector.
Thank you, Dr. Savita. That was very well put. And so for those of you, just to give it a gist, if you want to get into government sector, especially in the north, I think they are in 6th and 7th pay commission. It's a lot of money for a youngster. So if I was lucky in the north, I would jump at it, because there is really a lot of money for a youngster. And like Savita said, she's a big, when I told her to talk about this, she said, so I am a big fan of consultation, because you made a lot of money. So that's also one avenue. So what you need to do, don't waste time, just start swimming. That's what it is. Now, moving along, for those who want to set up their private practice, I would like a very senior man who's is known to be a very successful practitioner. He's the head of department of Vaidhi Dental College, Dr. Mohan Thomas. Sir, can you give us pointers what it takes to set up a good private practice? Pointers.
Good afternoon, Ashish. You can hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First of all, I would like to thank the BITS team, Dr. Ramya and Dr. Ashish and all the other members, including the principal, to give me this opportunity. I would like to take at least 2.5 minutes, not more than that. So now,
that's fine, sir.
What do you feel, according to me, what is a successful practice? See, when you start the practice, I think there are 4 to 5 stages. Your first year, you start the practice. First year to third year, you build up the practice. And the last stage, mostly 25 to 30 years, you should be ready to have associates and slowly retire. Be ready for go through all the competitions and try to retire. So now in India, no one is ready to retire. People try to work till 65, 70. But I would like to go through some points to have a successful practice. The first is choosing a right site of practice. You should have, try to give you the important points. Commute time is very important in a big busy city like Bangalore. So try to choose a place where you practice. It should be close to the place where you stay. And second one is locality and neighborhood. Try to have a decent locality where decent means you cannot have a very posh clinic in a not very posh area, and you cannot have a very shabby clinic in a very posh area. So both has its drawbacks, and it's better to choose your locality before you start your practice. And neighborhood also matters. You should have a clean and neat looking surroundings. Example, you cannot start a clinic close to a poultry shop, a liquor shop. A shabby looking neighborhood always discourages patients to come. And the next one is always a proximity to hospitals, because in 2 ways it can help you. One is referral patients, and second is referring your patients in emergencies. The next one is accessibility and visibility. It should be better. It's better that you have a clinic on your first floor, because old age patients, it will be very difficult to climb up, and parking and visibility for better advertisement for your clinic. The next one is infrastructure. There are 2 types of infrastructures, that is exterior and interior. In the present stage of competitive practice, it's better not to spend too much on interior. Clean and maintainable interiors with less cost. So this money what you save on interiors, you can convert that into your equipments. And then there are a lot of approvals which are needed. So you should be able to know what all approvals you need for a sustainable practice, because the authorities will be after you. You will have 4-5 patients waiting. You will be busy. Your subordinates will be busy. So at that time, you should be ready with all your registration certificates like Clinical Establishment Act, your bio-waste disposable certificates, fire registration, etc. The next most important point is publicity. So now, as dentists, I don't think we are allowed to advertise in newspaper. Only area where you can advertise in newspaper is when you start a clinic, or when you improve your clinic, when you add something new to your practice. And the next thing is only permissible this thing, you can write articles about new procedures, what you do, come on TV interviews, come on interviews in media. You can write articles about special work, what you are trained or you're doing in Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. Now, the most important part, I will keep it last, which is the financial matters. Your doctors and staff should be, do you have time?
So
yes.
So we will. So it's okay, sir. You can just finish it in a gist, because the next question is a financial question for the next person. You can finish it, sir. Finish whatever you have to say.
So your doctors and staff should be selected in such a way that they are at least having minimum amount of education. So your supporting staff and your junior doctors, you shouldn't waste much time in training them. So if less headache is there, if they are already trained. Otherwise, you can take them for a 2 or 3 weeks short course and get them trained. You should always hire the right people. And the next thing is maintenance of equipments. It's one important thing. So you should, when you yearly maintenance and yearly maintenance of logbook. So according to me, a practicing dentist should always have a positive attitude. Whatever comes, you shouldn't shout at any of your co-workers. Always you should be happy, and whatever stress you have at home or outside your clinic, you should keep it there and come in, because patients can easily feel your pulse. When you give an anesthesia, if you are annoyed, definitely the patient is going to feel the issues. So in long term, don't carry outside pressure inside. Always be happy. At least on a Saturday afternoon, call your staff and go for arrange a family institutional lunch or something. So they also will be motivated. So these are the success for me is you should have a peaceful sleep on that particular night, how much ever work you have and how much ever stress you have in your clinic. So I am leaving the financial management part. I think you should have a balance sheet every month, and 50% of your earning, 50% of your earning, I think at least you should be able to save, because I'm not breaking up into the percentages. I'll allow the next speaker to speak about it. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So moving along, sir gave a good pointers like what it requires to set up a practice and how to inculcate with a good relationship with your staff, and how to set it up in a correct area. It doesn't have to be very expensive, but it should be at least hygienic. Now, there's one person who's been very meticulous in choosing his practice and his location. He's literally overthinked it, and he's been successful at it. And that is Dr. Professor Adarsh from VS Dental College. Adarsh, as I know, he's very meticulous and very detailed. So Adarsh, we would like you to tell us some pointers for 2 minutes. What are the financial implications? Like we can, like sir said, have decent amount of interiors, or you can, how to not go overboard, because the first, you don't break even till the first 3 years. So what is your take on this, Adarsh?
Thank you for the opportunity, Ramya ma'am and Ashish sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. See, firstly, after you finish your MDS, like everyone, I was fortunate to get a job, and immediately had a freelancing work. So now the point is, the problem arises for most of us is that, would you want to just leave your freelancing and start a practice? So starting a practice would mean that you would be losing your easy money. And so what you need to realize is how passionate you for the service. How are you motivated? So all these factors should be kept in mind. And at the same time, when you're starting your practice, for me personally, I had uh, let go my freelancing and then start my practice. So which would mean that there will be a lot of finances, managing the finances. So you need to find a balance. See, we are all influenced by social media, Facebook and Insta, like everybody says. Now, obviously, we would want to have a great set of all the latest. Having a good vision is important. At the same time, have a game plan for it. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, we are not trained to be an entrepreneurs. So we need to manage the finances well. That will be covered by somebody else. At the same time, see, when you're managing the finances, the most important thing that you need to remember is the first, you have gestation period, meaning 6 months to 2 years, you may not earn much. So your first goal should be you should be able to meet your overheads first. Then obviously you will have to upgrade. Yes, you have to have a goal and you have to accomplish it over a duration of time. See, I wanted to buy a microscope in the beginning itself. In fact, I troubled Ashish sir and of course Ashwini when I was setting up practice. And I used to drag them to my place to design and plan all that we did. And then I was itching to buy a microscope. Then I waited for some time because I didn't want to invest and have a lot of overheads on myself. So I was just testing the waters in the beginning. And I did buy it after 2 years. But in the meantime, I was upgrading it by buying thermoplastic, GP, DSLR. So you need to have work towards it. I'm sure you'll be able to achieve your dreams.
Thank you, Adarsh. That is well put. I think there's a problem with your audio, but we got the gist of it. So basically, don't overdo it in the beginning. Plan and bootleg it literally and go on adding equipments to your clinic. That's what is the thing, because your overhead cost is something that you guys have to take into consideration. Now, coming to the next question is for the RV team. There are so many, okay, we have the best practice, we have the best interiors, we have planned it financially, I'm all set to go. What about the bloody competition? There are so many dentists like Darshini shops, almost every nook and corner. And there's on top of that, we have the goddamn sharks, that is the corporates who are breathing down our neck. So this question is, how do we charge the patients when a scenario is like this? So this question is for Dr. Murli and Dr. Keshav Prasad. So one of you can start. So, Dr.
Yeah,
Murli,
am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Akshay. And I'll be brief. Sorry. Yeah, but your phone or your indication says Akshay. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Thank you, Akshay. Yeah, okay. And thanks to the team BITS for this end. I can call it world-class program with seamless education. So, and having that in mind, so you just asked me, there are sharks. So let there be sharks. We'll be fishes now. Well, no, to personal, I should bring my experience. Of course, I started the clinic in '94, and because in Jayanagar, because that's where I stayed that time. As it is said, we all made a small beginning because of our college proximity, and we made houses there. And then, as the Dr. Mohan Thomas said, commuting is very important and takes a lot of your time. One, and that time you believe your Dr. Jagdish sir was there, Dr. Gurraj was there, Dr. Satish Babu was there, Dr. Rab was there, Dr. who not, all the big. So, and I always believe there are, the population is almost 1.3 billion, and you have your own set of people to cater. Not everybody, even if everybody in Jayanagar wants to come to you, it's not possible for you. So they will come. And the only thing is, I always, of course, if you've done your specialization should serve as the supplement, not the complement. It is not a substitute for your basic degree. Remember that. So, because of so many colleges here and people who are not been exposed to a lot of general dental practice, so kindly do not let go the general dentistry, even though you're going to specialize in later. It's always a supplement, then it cannot substitute your basic dentistry. Only thing is you can reasonably do well in your specialization than others. One. And number two, whatever it is, whether your social media or whatever form your advertisement, it is not your brand ambassador. Word of mouth by your own patients who come is your brand ambassador. Remember that. And never fear. And as they say, your dental practice, wherever, even for any jobs, they say tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. You also choose an area, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 upcoming areas where they have access to further interior, and potentially they will give you a lot of clients. Once they are clients, they are your clients forever if you're doing a reasonably good job. I believe in that. Be positive. So it is one thing is, don't forget your basic dentistry, because not everybody will come for root canal. Some may come for your extract, which is very important. So you have to have a reasonably fair knowledge and skill. And since the patients are so less in your exposure and during colleges, never let go of any opportunity to learn the basic. So that really helps your dentures, your extraction, which are not a great thing. When you can do a molar RC, your extractions and dentures are not that difficult, even though you have to take more care of the patients, but still. So that is my this thing. So still I enjoy my basic dentistry, and I wish everybody does that, because as you said, as you rightly put out, why should you learn implants? Why should you learn other things? No. So it adds to your profile. You can say, like Tata Steel's one big saying is there. They say, their ad says, we also make steel. We also make steel, which means they are into so many things. So our motto is that I am also good at endodontics and first conservative dentistry.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Adarsh, you can unmute yourself, please. Dr. Adarsh. Yeah. Sir, Keshav, sir, anything to add? Keshav, sir, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ramya ma'am. Ashish, I'd like to add some points to what all these people have said. Although you are in academics, you are doing a lot of cases. My advice is, the more you work, it's better for you. And you are always under somebody when you are in a college. The moment you step out, again, my advice is, don't immediately start a practice. Look around, work in some clinics, go as a consultant, build up contacts. Then slow and as a steady process, go into practice. And most importantly, please build up a trust with your patients. The more you build trust, you can increase your practice later on. And whatever you do, documentation becomes very important. At some point of time, you're going to have your own website. So put all your photographs, put all your educational videos, all of these on the website. And with so much of technology, take reviews from your patients. Put it up on your website. And there was one point that Ashish also has asked me to say: exploitation. Don't guarantee any kind of treatment to any patient. Whatever we do, it's not 100% successful. At some point, some problem might happen. And always take a written consent before you're doing treatment. Record keeping also becomes very important. All these are done in a corporate sector. Now, if you are going to compete with a corporate clinic, all these things you need to do. Thank you, Ashish.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That was very well put. So you need, guys, you should know, I think the youngsters know how to beat the competition. They're more tech savvy than us. But like Murli sir said, it's your word of mouth that is going to generate patients. Don't be scared about who's opening the next clinic. Is he much more fancier than yours? Do your work, be focused, be nice to your patients. I think that will make you click. Now, all that is okay. So we've set up the practice. We're doing good work. We're decent. But is dentistry the right profession for the long term? Okay, yes, it will give you a decent life, but unfortunately for us as doctors or dentists or young dentists, we are not taught financial planning at all. And financial education is zero in Indian families and in our universities, especially medical and dental. But this is not so case in abroad. So they teach you how to financially plan. So I have a question for somebody who is very suave and very smart in his financial planning. There is none other than the HOD of KMC Mangalore, Manipal Cods. Karthik, are you there online? So the question to you is, how do we is dental practice enough because it's becoming so expensive, or do we need to augment ourselves with other financial resources? Karthik, yeah.
Hi, Ashish. I think this question comes more because of the pandemic and as a result of the fallout. Okay, so
no, not because of the pandemic, gently, because this is the question all of them will ask when they are 40 years old. Is it enough? Because education is so expensive, life is so expensive, and we want to live the good life. So you're the guy who's doing all that. So give us your tip.
Okay, I've always felt, see, this is for the postgraduates. You are very lucky to be getting into a field which is got excellent prospects. Like all the seniors just before you spoke, they told you how to design your practice and gave you a lot of tips. And you also listened to several eminent speakers. Many of them are in fact generating revenue by speaking also. So see, it is this pandemic, again, if we just focus on the situation at hand, it has somehow told everybody not to put all their eggs in one basket. So with that, it comes back to the fact like what Ashish was saying, we educate ourselves in a particular field. We educate ourselves with lots of knowledge in order to earn a living. But then we forget to educate ourselves about how to manage the money which comes in. And in Kannada, they say, Sankata Bandaga Venkata Ramana. So it's a bit like that. We remember financial planning when we are in financial trouble, and that will not help us. So with all that said, basically there are two ways, as youngsters, this is the right time for you people, two ways for you to secure yourselves. Number one, learn financial planning, learn it for yourself. Don't leave it in somebody else's hands. And do all the few basics. Once you learn your basic financial planning, you tick off all the basic boxes. When I first started earning, I met somebody, he told me, invest in a PPF. This is called as a widow's saving. It was like, it was by he came from a community, from Mangalore, we have a community of Kokanas. They're very good at saving money. So, you tick the boxes off. There'll be a bucket list of things you need to do. So, penny saved is a penny earned. So you tick that off. So that comes from your learning. So invest time in learning about finances. Number two, try to see if you can go to an alternative stream of income. Here it is very important, I feel, try to develop your alternative stream of income from your core profession. Don't forget that you're all restorative dentists. As being in this field of dentistry, being a restorative dentist, you have avenues from your domain itself to develop additional streams. What are those? You can get into teaching. It is an additional stream. So all of us who wear two hats as teachers and academics, we have two streams of income. You can innovate. Today the world has changed. You can innovate. You can develop patents. You can earn royalties from that. We in Manipal University, we encourage all our students to get into innovation. We have an innovation day. We try to develop them into developing a product. We then incubate the product so that they learn how to develop, their maybe channel their energies and their innovation. And we hear about this Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc. You can become an inventor. That's not difficult to do nowadays. Then finally, you can use online platform. YouTube pays you for videos. You make money. 100,000 views, you get certain amount of money. 1 million views, you get an X amount of money. So you can use your talents. All of this, what your teachers have taught you. Learn documentation, like what the previous speaker had told, and try to use that. You yourself can become a school of dentistry. There's nothing commercial about it. It's all about us sharing knowledge. Many of us now with today's job scenario, we may not get the job we want, but we can still become teachers by offering ourselves on an online platform. So with all of this, you can basically hedge yourself. You can hedge yourself against any loss of income. You can hedge yourself against any downtime. And in this lockdown, I've seen several friends of mine who have done an excellent job putting their cases up online and things like that. So I suggest, with these few tips which I've given you, you can think of alternative incomes as well as not too much deviation from your core competence. Thank you, Ashish.
Yeah. Thank you, Karthik. But the answer I was looking for is the youngsters should start investing in stocks at a very early age. So,
That's a very,
this is something I
that is a very risky advice to give right now when the markets are at an all-time high.
But the thing is, with the disclaimer that we're not responsible what happens in the stock market tomorrow, start putting some amount of finances into stocks, into PPF, and into real estate.
Maybe
So I had this wonderful.
Maybe
Yes,
safe finances. Safe
yes,
finances.
safe finances. Safe finances. So don't blame us tomorrow. But because I had this professor who is a head of the program, Dr. Stephen David. So he's a Jewish guy and very, very wealthy. He had a lake house, and we exploited. He was a program director, so we exploited everything, all his resources. So we used to go in the weekend. So he said, Ashish, you don't make money by prepping teeth. You make money in real estate and stocks. So I hold on to that advice and I give it to you with a disclaimer. If something happens, don't blame me. So be safe and don't get conned. So that's a very good advice. And Karthik, reach out to Karthik for advice on investment in stocks. He's the guy who knows what to buy the latest stocks. So moving along to the next question. Thank you, Karthik. That is indeed insightful, because you kids need to know that if you want that good life, you want to drive that dream car, start saving now, because once you have kids, and it's very, very expensive. Education is very expensive. Your lifestyle is going to be very expensive. You need to augment your lifestyle with additional resources. Dentistry is enough for a good life, but you want that spectacular life, I think you should start augmenting your income. And this is a personal opinion, and I have followed certain people, and that's why they were called here to speak about it. So anyway, thank you, Karthik. Moving along, madam, the next question, we have the last 3 questions. Yes, ma'am.
The next one is, see, there are people who are not really interested in academics, and they don't want to venture into clinical practice, or tie themselves down with consultations. They want to do something different. They are the ones who have actually stood out during their PG course. So this question, I would like to address it to Dr. Jayashree Hegde. Dr. Jayashree, good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. As someone who is a renowned practitioner, a well-known speaker in various forums, and working closely with various dental companies, do you have any suggestions for freshers who have actually excelled throughout their PG course? Is there something that they can do, to sort of set themselves apart from the routine passing out postgraduates? What is your opinion regarding working in close collaboration with international companies? How exactly do they have to prepare themselves to take on such opportunities?
So thank you, Dr. Ramya and Dr. Ashish, for giving me this opportunity. I've been a key opinion leader for especially 2 companies, that is Ivoclar and Colteen, and I've enjoyed my time with them. As you all know, that I was also into academics, and I think Ramya knows I love to talk, and becoming a key opinion leader is something like you need to talk all the time. The only thing is that, yes, all the postgraduates have been in your course for almost 3 years. So in this 3 years, if you have been very good in research and you have a good documentation of the same, it could be research, it could be your clinical work. Any company that is there will have their own set of researchers and their own set of clinicians. So whatever we take from the researchers, we test it in the clinical scenario and see what is good. Now, for me, it is different, because I always wanted to do clinics and clinical work. And now that I'm not in academics full time, I'm doing more of clinical work. And I am documenting every case like it's a case for presentation. So if the postgraduates have documented their cases in this 3 years, and those who are just started their post-graduation, it's always good to document, do a follow-up. And if you have a good range of clinical work that you have done, it's always good to showcase. And these organizations or the companies, they give you certain materials for us to test ride it. And then we give our opinion to them and tell them where to make all the changes that is required. So as a key opinion leader, you're that trustworthy expert. So you need to do your work. You need to showcase your work so that
there is authenticity in that. No, you cannot fool around and tell this works when it actually doesn't work. So your audience or the participants listen to you because it's always nice to show your work. So if the postgraduates who are passing out have enough work with them that they can show, becoming a key opinion leader is very good, as satisfying as a teacher, because you go there and you talk to the clinicians or the students. They have so many questions to ask, and we, with our clinical expertise, we tell them what is good and what is not good. But there is a research side also. If your students are very good in research, they can always apply to these organizations or the companies, and they have a research part of it, which they can work on. So most often, the students who are passing out, they are so interested in research and not as much keen in the clinical work. They can always be on the research side of the company's organization. And yes, becoming a key opinion leader is very, very satisfying. Like my previous speaker, Dr. Karthik, just said, that financial options. So your key opinion lead, becoming a key opinion leader should be just another financial option. It should not be the main option. So it's like a pocket money, because you don't get lectures so every other day. It is something, of course, you can choose. If you want to do it every other day, you can still choose. But with your clinics, and if you are into academics, then I keep it on a Sundays most often, only when I have to speak in a college scenario, only then I do it on the weekends. So for me, it's a hobby. It's like, I just like it to keep it as a hobby, being a key opinion leader.
Thank you, Jayashree. And I forgot to mention that you travel the world. That's the
yes. You get to travel the world free,
yeah.
And you enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy the good food, all the top hotels.
And the hospitality. Yes.
I can tell you one thing, Jayashree is one person who thoroughly enjoys herself doing all this.
Yes.
Yes.
My main motto is, I want to enjoy life.
Yes,
and that should be your main motto also. Yeah.
And when somebody is footing the bill, it's lovely to go and just blow up the money.
It's the best.
So yeah, moving along to the next question. Now I know a lot of you youngsters want to be what practice, who's going to stick yourself in the patient's mouth, and I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a business. That's what you see your young kids telling, that I want to be a businessman, daddy, I want to be a millionaire. So some of it rubs onto you, and there are certain people who want to be a big businessman and very successful. And I'll be biased in saying that, but I can't help myself because madam's told me to say this. So do you know one of the biggest companies in India is Confident Dental, and he's an endodontist. And he did his endo, got bored doing root canal. I mean, this was way back, and started the first dental industry in India. And now it's, I think, 30 years, and they own 60% of the market share. So you can grow that big. I know times then were easy, but this question is addressed to somebody who's young, dynamic. I know him from his undergraduate days when I was doing my post-graduation. He's none other than Dr. Vinod. He's an astute clinician. He's a solid businessman. So Vinod, over to you. Can you share your tips for kids who want to get into business and become entrepreneurs like you?
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Ramya ma'am, for giving me the opportunity, and all the students. First of all, as you said, and everybody, to sum up the whole thing, I have done everything what everybody else has done, including academics. Being it a KU opinion leader, I was one of the first to be the key opinion leader for Carl Zeiss microscopes. And I have had the chance to launch the thermoplastic Gadapacha in India, as well as the rotary nickel titanium instruments. I am a part of research with most of the companies. And to sum up something, I have developed something in association with Carl Zeiss. This is also something called as innovation and trying to do something to the profession so that we stand apart. And the last but not the least, now I have started something called as a dental startup, which is called as the Dental Health Organization. You will come to know in the next few months, we are launching the dental insurance for the first time in the country, standalone, which will be unique. What I want to tell all the younger generation is that please don't expect everything from the profession, but also think what you can give back to the profession that will make a career for you. So with this small words, that innovation, that fire in you should take you everywhere. Earning is not everything. As Jayashree Madam said, enjoying life is also important. The profession should be your passion. It's not just for a living. That's something, Ashish, which I wanted to tell each one of them. And I think we need brand ambassadors for our profession. I think all the youngsters have a wonderful opportunity in our profession, and all the best to all of you. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Vinod. But I don't agree with you. You should have the money. You should practice. You should enjoy life. So that's what works. Okay. So moving along, it's fine to be a healthy practice. It's fine to work 9 to 4 to be top of your game. We saw Abhishek with so many. But one thing you guys should know is dentistry is a field which has a lot of burnout, physically and mentally. Do you know, I think most of you know that the highest number of suicide rates abroad is in a dentist, because these are high pressure jobs and a lot of health problems, including me. I think Madam knows this. For 2 years, I had my neck strained, and there was a lot of health issues with my back. It's because there are a lot of issues. And most importantly, many students come up to me. This is actually a student come up from a PG pool that we just picked up random students for these questions. These questions are not ours, mind you. We took it up from different students across. And one of the questions they asked is, how do we face rejections and disappointments in your everyday practice? Because, in college, when you screw up, I'm going to yell the shit out of my PGs, but Madam will be very nice and calm and guide them accordingly. That's not going to happen when you go out. So you are going to be disappointed. You're going to fracture that goddamn instrument. You're going to have that annoying patient who's come out with a broken veneer and she keeps breaking that. So there's a lot of frustration and dejection, and eventually it leads to burnout when you reach by the age of 45. And if anybody is saying, no, it's not true, I'm still passionate, that's all bullshit. This does happen. It's documented. In India, we don't talk about it. The question goes for somebody who I know is being the most balanced person. Fantastic how he balances things. And the question for you, Dr. Naveen from Vaidehi, is, how do you keep your mental stability and health correctly when there's a big degree of burnout? Naveen?
Yeah, Ashish, am I audible? Wait, let me on the
audible,
visual.
But we want to see your face.
Yeah. All right, that should put a smile on anyone's face. Anyway, luckily for us, there's no denying the fact that it is amongst the most demanding professions. It takes, drains you out both mentally and physically, and probably that's the reason why, especially in the United States, it's considered to be a profession which is more prone to suicides. Luckily, it's not so in an Indian scenario. As far as the suicide rates amongst the dentists I'm talking about, burnout is definitely a problem that will always remain in dentistry, simply because our profession as such demands such high level of dedication all the time. It drains you out mentally and physically. Probably no other profession depends on so much of precision work on a day-to-day basis like what we do, and that's like probably what sort of stresses us out all the time. But what I would recommend is, like, when you're doing the same thing over and over again, just to keep you motivated, you need to surround yourselves with positive, minded people, people who are constantly reinventing themselves, going about doing, things a little differently, constantly, upgrading their skills. And also another thing that would help is, try to switch off once in a while, develop other passions. Of course, we have many examples, even amongst the ones who are present in our age group. We have Dr. Ashwini, who's a wonderful photographer. Apart from being a great artist, and to take nothing away from her thing, she's also an absolutely great endodontist and dentist and teacher. And Dr. Ashish, of course, wears many hats, all with Plum. And Dr. Rupa Nadig is there, Dr. Subhashini, and these are some of the ones that I have interacted with. To be relevant for a very long time in dentistry, it pays to sort of switch off once in a while, entertain your other interests, side by side, I guess, like, that's one way you can sort of like, beat burnout. Burnout is going to be there. It's universally present in all professions, but more so in dentistry because of the 5 things that I was mentioning. Because probably like a millimeter doesn't matter as much in any other dentistry as much as it matters in endodontics. Okay, whenever we have done a obturation and we find it a little short or a little beyond, we are always stressed and we are always tensed. I guess that's what's an issue. But like I was mentioning, keeping ourselves in good company, like they say, satsang, in the company of enlightened people and in company of positively minded people would help on the long run. I think that's all I need. I had to add. It was a curved ball. I hope I was able to throw some light on.
Thank you. Thank you, Naveen. That was wonderful. So what Naveen, to just summarize what he said, and I strongly believe, is 2 things. First, surround yourself with positive people. Don't surround with fellows with like, hey, what, man, no, man, so sad. No, they're going to bring you down. Talk to people who are very positive, who would uplift your energy. I think that's a motto that I've always, always followed in my life. Even in college, I laughed the loudest, and all these guys who are with me know. So we crack jokes all the time, and Madam also knows she's laughing with all my beautiful language. And the other thing is what my elder brother always told me is, always there's going to be a competition in your peers. Who's got the best clinic? Who's going to earn the more money? And they always come up. Guys have this tendency to throw these conversations. I did a full mouth veneer and all. Always remember one thing: your money is your business. He may have done that case, but that case is going to come back and bite his ass someday. So just be happy with what you have. This is what I can say. And coming to the last, which comes to the last question, I think Naveen touched upon it, is having a passion. Why is it very important to have a passion other than dentistry? Dentistry may be your primary passion, but you need to have a secondary passion. It could be anything, jumping off an airplane, you're doing skydiving, and believe me, it's highly recommended. And I have not had the guts to do it, but my wife and 2 small kids have done that. And in fact, they took a friend of hers who just lost her mom, and she was dejected, depressed for 2 years. And after this, it gave a new perspective in life. So I have 2 wonderful, beautiful ladies who I know them for a very long time. And of course, as Naveen said, one is Ashwini Santosh. She's a very good photographer, mind-blowing. And I think Naveen hooked us on to wildlife, and all of us are wildlife enthusiasts. And one of the best things is having the camera for the dentist. Like Dr. Jayeshi said, and so many other, document your case, and what you learn is how to use the camera. So Ashwini is somebody who has done mind-blowing photography. I've gone on wildlife trips, and we've always hunted the elusive black panther in the Kabini. We've not got that, but we've got wonderful shots of the tiger. Ashwini, what makes you tick and what drives your passion other than dentistry? Because you are equally excellent in dentistry and aesthetic dentistry and photography and clinical dentistry. Can you tell us, why is it important to have a passion which you can use the same skill to in your primary work? Ashwini, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, all. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Honestly, I didn't want to be a dentist. My passion was always and is art. Basically, I love colors. So talking about balancing is not something you find. It's something you create. So many times I always look back on my journey and try to understand what worked or even just fell in place at times. So here, I don't want to sound preachy, nor do I want to claim that I have a magic formula to whatever I seek or do. In general, I'm passionate about life. Apart from that, I indulge a lot in a lot of activities that fill my soul. That's art. So it could be fine art, wildlife, nature photography, traveling, music, reading. So basically, it's making more memories than money. So my mantra is, art is our only salvation from the horrors of existence. So the stint with photography for me started when I joined PG, and I had my Nikon D70 camera with my 105mm macro lens. So I bought this to document all my cases. So that was all I had. So my life was full with macro images of just bugs and caterpillars. Later on, I realized that portrait photography was great with macro lens. So I started taking amazing portraits of tribes from Karnataka. So this found its place in the book, Expressions of the Soul Exposed, with Dr. Terry Douglas, published by Quintessence. So this is about macro. Later on, the nuances of wildlife photography started when I visited South Africa with Dr. Maitrishwa Vyas, who is a mentor for Nikon India. During that tour, 2 of my photographs were accepted and published in Africa Geographic. So apart from photography, I always try to keep learning various art forms in India, like Pichwai painting or Kerala mural, Kalamkari, Tanjore, and the Buddhist Tangaka painting also, which is supposedly very gives peace to your soul. So one of my paintings, the Infinity Knot, has made its way to the cover page of Pins and Post. Thanks to Mahima ma'am for that. So what made this balance stick for me? It's like right from the beginning, I was always surrounded by optimistic people. That's my best friends, especially in BS Dental College. Dr. Ashish, Dr. Naveen, Subhashini, Meena ma'am, and Anjali. So these people always encouraged me to be what I wanted as a PG student and to follow my passion too. Especially Meena ma'am and Ashish sir always has been my source of strength. So they brought out the best in me both ways. Honestly, till date, Meena ma'am has always supported me whenever I wanted to be a part of tiger senses, elephant senses, bird senses, or my monsoon treks or haptology camps. She never said no. She always approved my leave. So what I want to tell here is you need to be around the right kind of humans to bloom, who basically understand you, who allows you to be the square peg in a round hole. I definitely had my fair share of tragedies, but these people have been my utmost strength and support. So here I want to tell you a small story. I think many of you know it. It's like Footprint on Sand. I think many of you know it. It's nothing but a story about a man who dreams about a walk with God on a seashore. The walk depicts his lifetime, both ups and downs. So as he notices the footprints on sand, for every situation, he notices 2 sets of footprints, one his and another God. Suddenly, he notices that many a times, especially during the most difficult times of his life, he noticed only 1 set of footprint, which disturbed him greatly. So he questions God that during the most difficult times of my life, I noticed that there was only 1 set of footprint. And when I needed you the most, you were not there for me. So God replied, when you saw only 1 set of footprint, it was then that I carried you. So the concept of God is nothing but people who help you and bring out the best in you. It's blissful to be around people who are divine. So in a world that is constantly changing, you should find your constants. I found mine in Meena ma'am and Ashish sir. So I hope all you students out there find your Meena ma'am and Ashish sir too. Trust me, I'm me because of them. So what I want to tell you is, if you can follow your passion and make enormous amounts of money, then you're extremely fortunate and lucky. If your passion subsides, but you still can have a nice living, then it's okay, but not great. But if you lose your passion, it may be hard to keep going. If you don't possess any passion for what you do, you'll never succeed. So what I want to tell you people here is, your career does not define you always. Follow your own passion, not your parents, not your teachers, but yours alone. So I want to end by thanking all of you for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Ashwini. Namaskara, you're a very evolved person. I hope someday we can be evolved like you. Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Now, to the final question. I know a lot of BGs want to run away, but one final question: how to break free? And this is somebody I always see on Facebook. She's always climbing mountains, going and doing the glacier treks, scuba diving. I mean, one of the most adventurous girl I know. And you call me sir. Actually, we are classmates. You don't remember, but tell us why it's important to break free. That's the last question of the day. Dr. Savita, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Thank you once again for this opportunity. And I think regarding the passion, Ashwini spoke a lot. And I'm sure like everyone in this crisis has affected all our life so much that it has affected physically and mentally. And definitely at this point of time, everything has come to a halt. You be it in your exam, or be it your job, or a career, or it could be financial. So definitely it is affecting all our mental stability. At this point of time, what I would like to say is, just forget about the present scenario, what is happening. Just concentrate on the positive future rather than looking at the negative present, what we are right now. So at this note, I want to say, don't get stuck up in this mechanical world which makes us get rooted to the routines of life. We are not here in this life to get rooted. We have to grow as a branch and as a tree. We have to evolve from what we are right now. And as Dr. Naveen spoke about the burnout and all that, and how I pursued my passion it's all started after 40s, I can say, though it is not very late. After having a beautiful career and as a professional, it could be a consultant or academician, whatever. But there is a stage where it comes which makes you feel enough is enough. You want to break free and explore something new. What I would tell the young postgraduate is, it may not be in a bigger dimension. Just look into a smaller hobbies. It could be painting or music or whatever you feel, or it could be now the picture perfect thing in Insta-worthy, I can say, by doing yoga or cycling or whatever. Just pursue it. And how I started is, I started with mountaineering in Kilimanjaro. It is an ardent task to climb that mountain, which is one of the highest peak in Africa. It is a 9 days difficult trek. After 5th day, I started realizing why I'm spending lakhs together to climb one mountain. But after the summit, the kind of an exuberance we get, the feel, it made me think of the next summit. So it all together made me to evolve as a stronger person. And the strength what I got from that trek onwards, I did find a bit of spirituality in that mountain, finding my, what you say, called a supernatural power. There is a saying, the mountains are dwelling places of immortals. So I do truly believe in those words, because I really found it. I want every one of you to explore the new horizons in your life. It could be the small things, but take a small step in whatever you're doing. And I want you to not to be as a rooted person. I want you all to grow as in a branches, where you can see the flower which is blooming with the fragrance, the fruit which is with your hardship giving a sweet taste. You will be a person with a whole. It's a complete. You can craft your life in a better way rather than getting stuck up in the present scenario. And I would like to end up by saying, live the life for this generation of people by saying Insta-worthy, because that's all about it. Every minute is Insta-worthy. So live your life and Insta-worthy. And I would like to take a few seconds. Me being in a government service, if at all people would like to be a part of a policymakers, or you want to have a leadership skill, who wants to do something different in the whole of country level, or it could be in a state level, as you have people witnessed Ramanand Shetty sir, being a dentist, he rose to the position of an DME and to the position of an vice chancellor. It is an eminent post to be in this university. And next we have Dr. Kiran, who is in same as a syndicate and senate. If you want to bring about or reform the system, be it in the system to change it. So government job is the one you can really count upon and look for it. And thanks for Ashish and Ramya ma'am for this great opportunity. She is a great mentor for me. She honed my skills. I was just like a rock. She made me something out of it. So everything goes to Ramya ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ashwin.
thank you, ma'am. 1 minute. Thank you, Dr. Savita. So my advice to all of you is to have your bucket list. Start making the bucket list. These can be short-term goals, what you want to do other than dentistry, and pursue them and fulfill them. And in the end, like Sumit said in the beginning of the presentation, life is what is nothing but making sweet memories. So on your journey, when you're going, all you'll remember is the good memories, the travel, the food you tasted, the time you spent with your family, and that is more important. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, actually this colloquium, I think what we had initially planned was something different, and what it has actually come out as is something really beautiful, because we've got inputs from various professionals, academicians, clinicians, entrepreneurs, and also people who have been, steadfast in pursuing their passion. I think there's a lot to learn. I think you PGs are really lucky to get inputs from all these various sources. So take tips from all of them, mold yourself in your own frame, but take inputs from all their thoughts and all their experiences, and stay positive. And you have your whole life ahead of you. It is ultimately you have to make a difference in this world by being yourself. So see what your true calling is, and accordingly you sort of shape yourself. Now we come to the end of today's program. Before signing off, I have to thank a lot of people who have made this journey possible for us today. First and foremost, I would like to thank our management and our principal at Bangalore Institute of Dental Sciences for all the encouragement and the exceptional support that they've given us for making this program happen. And the second person that I would like to really thank is Dr. Ashish Shetty, my co-professor in the department and a very dear friend. Ashish has been, working tirelessly, and he's been very enterprising in making this whole program happen. It was mainly due to his untiring efforts that this has been possible. Of course, I should not miss out on my other team members, my staff members, Dr. Subhashini and Dr. Yamini, who have been exceptionally supportive. The postgraduate students who have really taken it upon themselves to, make all this happen, because they have been the ones behind the scenes doing all the hard work, posting letters and then designing the brochures and, setting up the Zoom links or the WebEx links. They have been the ones who have been working overnight and, sort of not even focusing on their personal life. And one more thing I have to tell is all of us have to thank our family members, especially our family members, because in this lockdown period when we have all been locked down at home, we have been immensely disruptive as far as family life has been concerned. Our family members, I would like to particularly thank my husband, Dr. Raghu, who has been exceptionally supportive in this regard, because there have been days when I have sat in front of the computer for hours together, and he's managed the rest of the show. I would like to thank our family members also. And I would like to thank you all participants for your, patience and for staying with us all through the 11 sessions and, responding to it in a very favorable manner. Thank you. Ashish, would you like to add anything more?
Before you sign off, we sign off. There's three important announcements. All of you have to fill in your feedback form. It will be mailed, put it on the WhatsApp group. Without the feedback form, we won't be giving your certificates. So kindly do that. And I would like to thank Sumit especially for doing all the time zones, trial sessions with so many, all the 11 speakers. It was crazy because we were 3 hours behind, 5 hours behind. It was going haywire. It's not easy. And the other thing, what I wanted to say is thank you for your immense support. And when Dr. Nasir Shadman comes to us with his dates, we will announce it. And we will be sending you the certificates individually. It will be like as if you have attended 11 CDE programs for those of you who attended all 11. And there is fantastic news from Karnataka State Dental Council. So that will be great for you in your repertoire. And one of the things what Jayeshi said that I wanted to mention is document your cases, have a case repertoire. This is what we do at BITS. So when you go out and show to a corporate or foreign country, show your stuff, what you did, it'll be mind-blowing for them because no other country has so many variety of cases than India. So you should use this strength and start documenting your cases. And with that, we would like to sign off with a small video, very short 1-minute video. Sumit, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So here it goes, the video.
Share your screen, please. Thank you. We'll sign out now and we'll be back with the second season. And when we do, we'll have some interesting speakers. So goodbye and Godspeed. Ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you all benefited immensely from this journey with us. Wish you all the best for your exams and your future career and your family life. All the best.
Ramya, thank you. 1 minute.
Yeah.
As usual, your team was exemplary. And then the 3 take-home messages is: 1, you try to do your best, things will follow. 1. And number 2, money is not everything what it defines.
Yes.
And number 3, you usually call me ball trotting, which is true. No, otherwise you, as you said, to get surrounded by good people, even in your academic career, you have a lot of chances to go out, right? See, it may be academic, but still they gave you the chance to go out for exams or go out for inspections, conferences, everything. Your dentistry, you can also get by reading books at sitting a place. But all these encourage you to get to know people. And see, those who ever spoke, I cannot accept Ashish. Nobody is that rich. Okay. I may say that, but still, I mean, okay. No, it was really good, Ashish, to pursue your passion. So I told you were telling about Ashwini told about pursuing any other. I am telling you, take it from me, especially in South India. Have you ever seen that parents make their children right to undergo any other training in form of music or dance, which makes you focus better in your primary work? Take it from me. I've seen that it's not something without evidence. Once you are into something, it additionally adds to your focus and concentrates and do perform much better than what you will be without any secondary. You can call it as hobby or passion or your pastime, but take that also seriously. And again, I thank you so much again, and especially Ramya had a lot of time going together for exams or inspection, because we have been together from almost 30 years. She was a 1 year junior, even though she's professor and doing exemplary work. Her smile stands out. Everybody's the best smile of your aesthetic dentistry was hers. I should compliment. Thank you, Ashish, for this wonderful program, and say to all, and preferably second edition, not during a third lockdown wave. Please let it be healthier time. I pray for that.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Ramya.
Thank you, Murli.
And do it faster, as fast as possible, as early.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ramya. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the team.
Bye, everybody. Bye.